Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Anna Marie. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this today. I'm a little late after the actual readathon, but I really wanted to talk to you guys about these books. Some of these books are going to be all-time favorites and I can't wait to tell you about them. So recently I did Polarthon. It was during the first week of February. Now, Polarthon is a readathon that is hosted by jadeyraereads. This is her second year doing Polarthon, and it is a readathon that is dedicated to polar fantasy. jadeyraereads set up this brilliant kind of map so that you can choose 5 books to read for the Polarthon week, and they all had to be under a different category. So some of the categories were snowy setting, wintry word in the title. There are just so many categories that she set up, and it was just brilliant. So unfortunately I could only do 4, so I had to double up on some of my categories. So I chose 4 books. The first book was under the category of wintry words in the title. So I was in the middle grade section looking for polar fantasy and wintry words in the title, and I came across this book. It's called Hearts of Ice, and it's by Adi Rule, or Adi Rule. Not sure how to pronounce it. Immediately when I looked at it, it gave me Frozen vibes. Like, I love Frozen. I don't know about you guys, but I looked at it and I immediately thought Anna and Elsa, and it looks a little bit young, and that's because it is. It is a book that is on the younger side of middle grade. So I did not really enjoy this one. One reason I think being because it is such a younger book. The writing is very cliche. The whole thing was very predictable. It just left me like feeling shortchanged. I mean, I read fantasy and a lot of high fantasy on a regular basis. I wasn't surprised when I felt that way. Hearts of Ice is about a young girl named Evangeline, and she lives with her mom and they move around a lot. And it's very mysterious. She doesn't understand why they move so much and why her mother seems to be afraid of snow or winter. So Evangeline finds herself fighting with her mother one day about this. She wants to stay because she's made some friends, and she is sucked through a portal to a wintry parallel universe. And in this parallel universe, she finds that she is being mistaken for the princess. In this realm, there are talking animals, there is magic. Evangeline soon finds out that her father, her long-lost father that she was never told about, is the king of this realm. He is searching for Evangeline's long-lost twin sister. And through a series of events, Evangeline finds that her father does not have her best interest at heart, nor her sister's, and she is traveling across this realm to prevent her father from stealing this ancient, powerful magic that could destroy the realm. Along the way, she makes several friends, and I will say that the friendships in this book are very heartwarming, and I love that. And then she finds her sister, and they have to work together to prevent the king from stealing this ancient magic. It was a very quick read, and it fulfilled one of my slots for Polarthon, but I did not give it a very good rating. I think I gave it 2 stars, no, 3 stars maybe. The writing style was just not for me. It felt very juvenile and predictable, which, I mean, of course it's young middle grade, so you would expect that. This next book was actually the one that fulfilled the top slot of polar fantasy, and also right under that it was snowy setting. So I doubled up on the categories and used this book to fulfill both of those. And that is Ice Wolves by Amy Kaufman. And this is actually the first in a trilogy. It's called the Elementals series. And I did not realize until I was finished with this book that Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff have written several books together. I think it's the Illuminae series or Illuminae Files, and one more, the Aurora Rising series. So this is just Amy Kaufman writing her middle grade series, and there are 2 more in this series. I loved it so much that I had to get the second book in the series, and I also got the hardback of the first. I do buy too many books, guys, like it's real. Once I realized I loved it, I picked up the hardback of the first book, Ice Wolves, and the second one in the series is Scorched Dragons. These 2 books feature 2 different creatures, Ice Wolves and Scorched Dragons. They live fairly close to each other. It's kind of on either side of a valley. They are, in the beginning of the book, portrayed as mortal enemies. They are different in every way, and the Ice Wolves kind of portray the Scorched Dragons as this evil presence lurking that will steal children and kill the citizens of their town. So we definitely have enemies on either sides of these valleys. So we start with two orphans. Their names are Anders and Raina, and they are siblings who have been together since they were in the orphanage, and now they're living on the streets, and they have perfected their ability to steal from people. They work together as a team, and they're very close. Their relationship is so solid, and I love that brother and sister relationship that they have. So on their side of the valley, the ice wolves are prominent, and they are the protectors, and every year they come to this town, the ice wolves come to this town and recruit from the citizens. Usually they recruit from the younger kids, so around 11 or 12. The way they recruit is by handing this magical staff to the child to see if they transform into an ice wolf. And if they do, they're recruited to this academy where they can perfect their powers and train and learn to be protectors of their city. Raina and Anders are not really concerned with this. They're only here because they know that this is the perfect time to steal from people. Anders is, and this happens within the first few chapters, so it's not spoiling anything, he gets caught, and Raina comes to his rescue, of course, and gives this like whole explanation that they are only here for the ceremony. They're here to try and transform into an ice wolf. So they get out of that, but now they're forced to actually try to transform. So Raina is first, and she goes up and touches the staff, and the only two options really during the ceremony are you either transform into an ice wolf or you don't. So when Raina touches the staff, she does not transform into an ice wolf, but she does not stay human either. She transforms into a scorched dragon. And when this happens, all chaos breaks loose. The ice wolves transform because they are trying to protect the townspeople from this scorched dragon. And Raina, being a completely new dragon, she doesn't understand her powers or how to fly or how to breathe fire. So she's just kind of flopping around trying to figure things out. And Anders, he is blown away because they are orphans, so they don't know their family line, but this magic ability to transform into either a dragon or a wolf runs in your family line. It's genetic. So he assumes that because she transformed into a scorched dragon, he will as well. So he is trying anything he can to help her, but as a human, he has no power. So he reaches for the staff of Hada, which is the magical staff, and expecting to transform into a dragon, he touches it, but he finds that he is transforming into a wolf. As he is trying to figure this out, Raina is captured by two other scorched dragons and taken across the valley to their lair, if you will. Anders is found by other ice wolves. He decides that the only way he can rescue Raina is go to the one place that they study scorched dragons the most, which is Ulfar Academy, or the place that the ice wolves go to train. So he decides that he is going to enroll in Ulfar Academy, and when he gets there, he feels incredibly out of place. But he makes some friends and he goes on this adventure to try and save his sister. The writing in this book is beautifully descriptive and creates an amazing atmosphere in this school of magic. I love the school setting. So the writing in this book is descriptive, but it's also simple. It's very action-packed. You're always moving forward. And that's something that I really enjoyed, because once we get moving and once Anders is in the school, several things happen back to back. And you just want to put the pieces of this puzzle together, because he's trying to figure out how he can, by himself, go into this scorched dragon cave and rescue his sister in the midst of hundreds of scorched dragons. I also really love the aspect of the wolf pack in this book. So Anders is going from being an orphan on the streets with just his sister to becoming a part of this group of other ice wolves who understand exactly what he's going through, and he becomes a part of a family, and it's just amazing to see his transformation as he opens up to other people. I read through this really quickly and I loved every minute of it, so much so that I picked up Scorched Dragons, which is the next in the series. And I think this one is going to be really, really interesting, because the Ice Wolves and the Scorched Dragons, they have this prejudice against one another and this hatred for each other. It's almost blinding. They are not willing to open up and see from the other side. And Anders, because of his unique situation with his sister, he kind of gets to go into the Scorched Dragon lair and see things from their point of view. This was one of my absolute favorite reads for Polarthon, and I can't wait to pick up Scorched Dragons in the third in the trilogy, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. I really recommend this series. So my third book for Polarthon was under the category of Furry Friend. And I started Polarthon right after I finished the Winter Night trilogy, and that had a lot of Russian mythology and folklore, and I loved that so much. So when I found this book, Anya and the Dragon, I recognized some of the same kind of legends and myths in this story. I was so excited to pick this up because I knew that I would love it if it had some of that same kind of magic and folklore in it. This is honestly one of the best books I've read in a while. This is actually the first in a series. The second one has not come out yet. I think it's called Anya and the Nightingale. If that is as endearing and funny and heartwarming and heartbreaking as this one is, I'm just gonna be all in. Anya and her family are living in Russian territory, but they are a Jewish family. One side of her family follows the traditional religion of Russia, but her parents, and her grandmother are Jewish, and they are not accepted in this town. They live kind of on the outskirts of the village, and people aren't actively pushing them out, but they are also not accepting of them either. It's so sweet. The grandmother makes these potions and soups and remedies for sickness, and Anya will take them in the middle of the night and hang them on the door of these people in the village. And the grandmother won't allow her to do it in the light of day because she doesn't want people to be embarrassed from where they're getting their remedies from. And it was just so interesting to have that aspect in the book because they're outsiders. They are in the midst of all of this magic and tradition and ancient rituals, but they are Jewish and they practice their religion. They also have some of the magical traditions that are normal in this area. They have a domovoi, which is a house elf, basically, that helps them clean around the house. And their family also has animal magic. So some of them can talk to animals. And Anya doesn't have any magic yet. She hopes to have animal magic because she does have a goat friend who is adorable and doesn't talk, but you always see that personality from this little goat friend, and Anya treats him like he is just a regular person who follows her around and sometimes gets on her nerves. Anya and her family are in a difficult position because her father has been recruited to go fight for the Tsar, which has left them in a not so great financial situation. Their landlord has threatened them if they can't pay up, they're going to lose their house. Anya overhears this, and she has this personality where she feels responsible for the people she loves. She wants to take on everything that they feel and everything that they're going through, and that's just something I love about her. She wants to conquer everything around her, and this is one thing that she wants to figure out. So she tries to come up with ways to make the money. She's selling things that she owns. And then she comes across this family that is working for the Tsar of Russia. They are trying to find this mythical dragon that is around this area, around Anya's hometown. Anya knows her land extremely well because this is where she's lived her whole life. She's raised here and she explores here and she knows the land. She is offered the opportunity to help them search for this dragon in exchange for her family's rent money. So she takes it upon herself to help these people search for the dragon. They come across so many obstacles and so many twists and turns. Things happen that you just don't expect. Anya is just fighting for her family to keep them on their family farm. This girl has to make an incredibly hard decision, but she just has to trust herself and that her intentions are pure. And I won't spoil the ending, but it is incredible. The whole book is amazing. The humor in this book, I was literally laughing out loud. She is so feisty and independent, and that really shows when she is going along this journey to find a way to help her family because she does not give up. She has the most willful personality of a lot of characters I've read in a long time. So I really recommend this book, especially if you're getting into fantasy and you've never really approached the genre before. This book would be such a great introduction to the magic and the folklore and the world of fantasy. So I definitely recommend this book for anyone who loves the genre or is just trying to get into it. It was so good. I want to talk about the last book I read for Polarthon, which was by far my favorite. I was so into this book that I stayed up, I think I stayed up until like 3 o'clock one morning, and I teach, so I had to be up at like 5:30. I don't know how I made it through the next day, but we're here, we made it, and we found a new favorite book. And that is The House with Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson. Guys, this is seriously amazing. I was introduced to this book by a Frolic through fiction, and she reads a lot of mythological and folklore-filled retellings. And this is a retelling of the Baba Yaga story from Russian folklore. There are several different interpretations of this story. Sometimes it can be about an immortal witch who preys on the living and is evil and powerful, but this version is just about the Baba Yaga being a guardian who uses a portal to take those who have died into the afterlife. And her house can travel. It has chicken legs. Her house travels all over the world. Yaga are all over the world. Every night they set up this party, basically, and they talk to those who have died and they listen to their stories. And as they're listening to their stories, the people who have died just get the chance to relive their best memories and reflect over what they got from their life. And they go through this ceremony, and at the end of the ceremony, Baba Yaga says, this is what you've carried with you. And it can be a number of things depending on the person. It can be companionship, or it can be the love of a family, or nurturing something that is growing. It's just depending on the person and their experience in life. It's what they were here for. It's their purpose. And that's what they take with them into the afterlife. And it's just a beautiful story. It's a beautiful fairy tale. And this book is from the perspective of Marinka, who is a young girl whose grandmother is a Baba Yaga. And this young girl is curious and adventurous, but unfortunately she cannot leave her house. She is in training to become a Yaga or a guardian, and she is getting very, very restless. Her only companions are her grandmother and this house, which has a beautiful personality. Like, Sophie Anderson has given this house a character all its own. And Marinka also has this friend who is a bird, and he doesn't speak, but he also has a personality all of his own. And he is by her side through thick and thin, and it's so funny to see them go through these little arguments, and he'll go and pout and she'll apologize. It's adorable. But Marinka feels like she is craving human interaction and relationships and friendships, and she is not getting that from learning how to be a Yaga. So she finds herself being drawn away from her house, and that gets her into a good bit of trouble. This book is just a result of what happens when you make one bad decision and the snowball effect that has on everything else. And honestly, my heart was like beating so fast, and I was anxious through some of this book because, not in a bad way, but because everything was just kind of snowballing into something bigger, and then she would try to fix that, and that would mess up something else, and it was just getting so out of control, and she is desperately trying to come up with a way to fix it all. And this is heartbreaking, but so good. I mean, I want to recommend this book to tons of people, even people I know who don't read, because it's just that good, and it's such an easy read. The writing is simple and easy to understand, but it also creates this atmosphere and gives the characters so much depth that it just gets you so invested in the story, and I was hooked from the very beginning. I will definitely be reading this again and recommending it to as many people as I can. Go read this book if you haven't read it. Seriously, it's amazing. All right, guys, that is my Polarthon wrap up. I will definitely be reading more polar fantasy in the future, and I cannot wait to do this again next year. This has been such a great experience. So hope to see you guys again soon. Bye.